Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today, we will present briefly about our report in Analysis Financial Statements of Bank Kerjasama Rakyat Malaysia Berhad 2020. In this presentation, we will explain about professional judgment and discuss how is it being used in the financial statements. Next, we will also explain about the accounting standards that has been used in the financial statements. So, let's look at the first one, Introduction. Accounting standard. What is the meaning of accounting standard? Accounting standard is a set of principles, standards, and procedure in preparing financial statements. It consists of aspects of an entity finance, which is asset, liabilities, revenue, expenditure, and shareholders' equity. These are the example of financial reporting standard, which is MFRS 102, 107, 116, 138, and 139. How about professional judgment? Professional judgment is an application of knowledge, skills, and experience in making accounting decision, analysis, and evaluation. In other words, it is a judgment made by any professional auditor who has got skills, experience, and training.
Professional judgment framework set out a structured process by which preparers and auditor with an appropriate level of knowledge, experience, and objectivity can form an opinion on an accounting matter based on the relevant facts and assumptions within the context provided by applicable accounting standard. Okay. This principle is set out for preparers, auditors, and regulators, but I will focusing on preparers only. The principle of a professional judgment for preparers consists of four principles. Okay, number one, we have knowledge gathering and analysis. Okay, the professional accounting judgment can only be made once all relevant information has been collected and analyzed. Okay, the second principle is assessment of accounting guidance. This principle can only be made in the context of the applicable accounting framework, accounting standards, and other literature where relevant. The third principle is process for making a judgment. Okay, professional accounting judgment can only be made after undertaking appropriate due process. And the last principle is documentation of judgment. Okay, this professional accounting judgment must be suitable documented. Okay, based on that four principles, I will explain about the principle two only, which is assessment of accounting guidance. Okay. The main point in this principle is number one, trade similar transaction under the relevant accounting framework. Okay, number two, refer to the conceptual framework for actual definition, recognition, and measurement of principles such as asset, liability, expenses, and income. Okay, number three is refer to a viable accounting bodies for additional guidance, such as in Malaysia we have MASB, and international we have IASB. Okay, number four, we consider if there is an accepted industry practice. Okay, number five, consider pronouncement of other standard setting bodies with similar conceptual framework. And the last one is consider if the resulting financial information is both relevant and reliable and give a fair presentation of the transaction.
Alright, for the next part is about part 3, which is standard interpretation, which is we explain about the standard that have been used in Bank Rakyat, which is MFRS. So we will explain about two standard, which is MFRS 102 and MFRS 116. Before that, my name is Nur Sharika binti Abdullah, and my matrix number is 1200701. Alright, the first part of standard interpretation is about MFRS 116, which is plant, property, and equipment of Bank Rakyat. So the objectives of this standard is because they prescribe the accounting treatment for PPE. So that the users of the financial statement can know how much the total of the PPE of this business that can change it to investment. Okay. So basically, PPE is a tangible item that help for production or supply for goods and services. So there are a lot of PPE in Bank Rakyat, which are such as building, freehold land, work in progress, and renovation, and so on. Okay, so Bank Rakyat is used straight line method for depreciation, as it easy for them to calculate for every year. For freehold land and work in progress are not depreciated because freehold land has unlimited useful life, while the work in progress are not ready for use or not ready for the purpose. Okay, so big amount in PPE is actually good for the business itself because the amount can change it to the investment. Okay, for the next part of standard interpretation is about MFRS 102, which is inventories. So the purpose of this standard is because to prescribe the accounting treatment for inventory. So there's a primary issue, which is amount of cost to be recognized as an asset and carry forward until the related revenues can be recognized. Okay, so that's the primary issue. So cost of inventories, which consists of three costs, which is cost of purchase, allocation of fixed and variables, and also conversion cost. Conversion cost is which are such as direct labor, direct materials, and so on. So Bank Rakyat use first in first out method, which is FIFO, that that first produce first out. So basically, at the end of the period, Bank Rakyat can know how much know the most product, the most inventories that recently purchased or produced. Alright, big total in inventory is actually good because the asset can change it to investment. But when too much, it can cause the users know that inventory is not in efficient management. So that's all from me. We continue to the next slide.
Professional judgments applied in the application of MFRS to prepare the financial statements in the annual report and appropriate use of measurement and recognition have reasonable and appropriate as referring to the part 1. The first reason is the nature of the professional responsibilities and the flexibility of the existing regulatory environment. When the professional judgment is challenged, a proper documentation of the use procedures is required, which can show the analysis of the facts, circumstances, and alternatives considered as a basis for conclusions. Therefore, when the professional judgment process is appropriately applied and documented, it is much easier to support and defend the conclusions. The higher degree of complexity of a certain problem is the higher the necessary degree of documentation. Second, well-reasoned and well-documented professional judgments is always respected in the case of internal practice review and defended in external inspection or other situations, because it emphasizes a constructive effort aimed at an adequate reflection of the company's economic reality. Third, a way to avoid these discrepancies that result by attempting to distort the economic reality is to satisfy the need of unity. The current concern in the field of accounting regulation is to avoid the subjectivism as much as possible, in order to reflect and provide relevant and transparent information by making appropriate use of the professional judgment.
This is the last part of our presentation, which is conclusion. The professional judgment framework needs to be prepared carefully and ethically because it's an important process to make accounting decisions, analysis, and evaluation that are not influenced by cognitive traps and biases or by emotion. It must be made by auditors who has knowledge, skills, and experience by referring only relevant facts and circumstances that provided by applicable accounting standards. The auditors need to follow 4 important principles. First one, knowledge gathering and analysis. Second, assessment of accounting guidance. Third, process of making a judgment. And last but not least, the documentation of judgment. For the preparation of the annual report, the auditors need to refer the conceptual framework or others reliable sources for definition, recognition, and measurement of the MFRS standards to discern information about the entity's investment. They also need to think if the company has accepted industry's practice or pronouncement of other standards that's similar. They need to believe that the financial information is both relevant and reliable.
To make it easier to conclude, the proper application and documentation are needed as it is supported by the analytics facts, circumstances, and alternative as they need to prescribe the accounting treatment for the entity. This application and documentation will take a lot of effort to conclude a reliable and transparent information. So, during the process, the auditors must be impartial, unprejudiced, and must avoid conflicts of interest as they must fulfill their duties objectively and independently with professionalism and integrity according to specific norms and procedures. That's all from us. Thank you for watching and listening.